Artsy Women. I'm Christine Guillot-Ryan. I'm here in the studio today with mixed media artist Lisa McLymont to talk about taking creative risks and trying new mediums. Lisa, can you introduce yourself and let us know what interests you as an artist?
I like working in metal, so I make jewelry, but I also draw and paint on wood. I've done some canvas, but I really prefer working on wood. I'm originally from New York, born in Manhattan, and ended up here in Ohio, but I ended up loving it, and I've been here probably all of my adult life, actually. So I'll probably die here, and I hope I die making art.
That's pretty awesome. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and about us both being transplants and being surprised at how much we really enjoyed Columbus and what a great creative community there is in Columbus, Ohio for being an artist. One of the things that I've always loved about your work is you're willing to explore and trying new mediums, and I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
The core to that, and I'm so glad that you recognize that, I'm very curious, and I always need to be creating, so trying different things helps me learn on different tracks, and what I learn in all those tracks kind of feeds the other ones. So everything's connected for me.
So do you switch when you feel like you've hit a corner or you get inspired to try something else?
The switching happens when I hit that wall. So inevitably, as a creative, you're going to hit a creative block. And for me, I found the best way to work through the creative block is to shift gears. So if I'm having trouble working on a specific piece that's a drawing, for example, I'll go and I'll twist something in wire or hammer it, or I'll go outside and play with leaves and dirt. But ultimately, yeah, those things help shake me out. But then there's some times where you just need to sit and watch a movie or read a book, and that also informs your creative process. So I recognize that I can't always be creating as much as I would love to. There needs to be downtime, and I think in my older years, I'm coming to terms with that.
It's funny, I can really relate to that. You know, sometimes it's difficult, when I have either an outside deadline or a self-imposed deadline, and I think that I've got to keep on going, and something isn't quite working, and I have to keep on going, and it feels like that's the truth, but very often I find that, stopping is often the best thing that I can do, and sort of when I'm feeling sort of empty, trying to refill that creative well and get input.
Yes, and you said deadlines, which is also really important. Switching gears also involves deadlines. If I have a piece due, I do push myself. I will stay up all night and not even think about it and not eat that whole time. I might use the bathroom, but... But ultimately, the deadline is just as important as leaving it open or being able to put it down and walk away for a couple hours to a day or a week. Sometimes you hit a block with something and you can put it down and come back to it and get the answers that you need to keep going.
Well, it's funny that you talked about deadlines. I've been recently doing some soul searching and looking at my art making, practices, and I just am so much better at making art when I have a deadline or like a goal or a place to have it. So
Me too. And I work right up until that deadline. I might play with fate or actually make cruel fate for myself by pushing it. So I know the deadline is in a month. I might wait a week or two and then get into it. And that's a bad habit on my part, but there's something in the risk of it and putting it all out there and not leaving time to check it or correct it. That is important for me. It's being loose with it.
Mm-hmm. That's really fun.
Or terrifying for some people.
Absolutely. Also about how deadlines can really push you to try new things. I was working on a mixed media series on the 7 Deadly Sins, and I had finished first 4 sins, and then it was basically 4 days till the deadline, and I had 3 more sins to go, and I absolutely knew that I wasn't going to finish if I did it in the same way.
Yeah, that's really tight deadline.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad. And I spent weeks on sin number 1 and 2, weeks. And
I will say, though, that series looked pretty solid. I did not know that you left 4 days for 3 of the 7.
Well, I made friends with spray paint, and it was really funny because once I recognized that I couldn't do it the way that I'd done the other pieces, and it really did make me think about what could I do differently. It was actually fun, and yes, I worked all night last night.
But you took risks in switching gears and trying new mediums to quicken your production. So there's something in that, is like you reach for new things thinking, okay, so I'm not, because I get caught up, when I work on the wood, I get caught up in the detail of the thing because I know I can really work it and get a really sharp detail. But like canvas, for example, when I work in canvas, I can't be as precious with it, and I can't sand it away or scrape it, because once it's there, you can maybe paint over it, but sometimes you want the purity of looking, or the looseness of looking like this was what I did, or like a plein air kind of effect. Like I did this in 1 or 2 sittings and I'm done and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And like that's not always the reality, but with wood, I can take some of that away, scrape it, and add back too. But canvas is a challenge for me in that I can't do that. So how do I approach that? And that is a challenge. That's a mental challenge for me. And there can be inspiration in that, but there's also a lot of frustration around that whole thing.
Artsy Women appreciates the support of Muse Gallery, the Gateway Film Center, Refectory Restaurant and Bistro, and the Greater Columbus Arts Council. The Greater Columbus Arts Council offers 4 annual individual grants for Columbus artists of all disciplines. Visit gcac.org for application information. GCAC, supporting art, advancing culture. And here's a message from our signature sponsor, the Refectory.
Where's the ad music for the Refectory Restaurant and Bistro? Is that right? Isn't the Refectory a fine dining restaurant? Did they send anything else? Okay, what's up?
Refectory isn't just a 4-diamond special occasion restaurant with the best wine cellar in Columbus. The Refectory offers a dinner music series featuring both local and nationally known groups like Morgan, McDonald and Maneri, Front Country, Pro Music, a string quartet, and the Whirlybirds, along with their amazing 4-course dinners in an intimate setting.
Okay, so how are we going to choose which music?
Why don't we just say visit refectory.com/events to find out what you want to hear and subscribe to the event calendar.
Perfect.
With fabulous food, wine tastings, and great live music, the Refectory makes any day a special occasion.
For reservations and events, visit refectory.com today.
Artsy Women is also sponsored by Blick Art Supplies. Since 1911, Blick has served the artist community. Family owned and operated, they buy in bulk directly from manufacturers and pass along the savings. Their wide selections, promotions, and competitive prices make Blick the largest discounter of art materials in the country. Blick's also offers artists and collectors an online exhibit community, Blick's Connects. Visit dickblick.com to get inspired, save money, and make it a creative day. Artsy Women now returns to our conversation between mixed media artists Lisa McLymont and Christine Guillot discussing creative risk and trying new mediums.
I also do digital media on the computer as well as what I call sort of analog pieces. And it's funny because the analog pieces, sometimes I get a lot more nervous about making mistakes because, with digital work, my favorite command is Command Z, Command Z. But on the other hand, there's something pretty awesome about, and that
I think that's why I love making art and I'm very analog in my approach. I might digitally work a collage into a sketch that is to the size or in the scale that I want. But after that, I'm completely I'll use a grid to transfer and I'll just try to do everything with my hands because, I work as a designer, so I'm looking at a computer most of the days. So it's kind of nice break from electric to go analog. And I actually really love that challenge.
That's awesome. So actually, that's another thing that we have in common because I also work as a designer in addition to doing art making. And it's funny, I've recently really looked at that and how I had built this wall between my art self and my design self. And one of the areas that I'm working in right now is video. And I had an epiphany at the end of a show. Actually, it was the 7 Deadly Sins series. And I looked at it and I went, it needs to move. You know, these elements are about time and evolution and this whole modular idea that I've been working with. It has to do with movement and choice, and I've been trying to do it in a static medium. And I went.
But you were achieving in that medium, which is a great achievement and challenge. You challenged yourself to do that, and now you've made that jump to video, which is amazing to me.
Oh, well, thanks. It was a pretty horrifying realization, honestly. It was like, in order to do this, to really, I had that really strong intuition. It was like a flash of an epiphany. And I knew that in order to do it justice, I needed to be a rank beginner again. And so I started taking night classes at Columbus State, and I discovered all these things that I didn't know. And at first it was pretty awesome because I could be, really bad, and it was fine because I was a beginner.
Yes.
And, being aware of, how much there is to learn.
Oh, yeah. We're always learning.
It's been a challenge because on some level I've intentionally not learned a lot about what other video artists do. I wanted to first see what I wanted to do because I knew that once I started looking and researching and comparing, that I wouldn't do work the same way again. And I wanted to work on about 3 or 4 projects where I didn't have that exposure. So almost like coming into it with a naivete. Like
I'm a self-taught visual artist. I did not go to school for art. I went to school for design, and I did art in high school under very little instruction. So I think it's so important to set the challenges for yourself and go find your answers. At what point you go to the library or to Google to find support in how you do something is a side note to you going and trying it instead of critiquing yourself before you even get started. And being an ignorant new beginner is a wonderful way to be as an artist, I think. We all have it from somewhere. We're carrying it within us. So to let yourself explore and let the inner critic be quiet is where all of that innovation can happen to me. So if you give yourself that time, and it may be switching gears and looking at different mediums, you might find your perfection is in a certain medium and all the other ones kind of help you get to that medium. So instead of getting locked in like I'm an oil painter before you explore the other mediums, I don't know that you really know that. It's just one that you're trying right now.
So many times I'll meet a person that, will have loved art at an earlier time and then will feel like they can't be an artist or they're not an artist because they can't draw. And I'll often inquire a little bit more, and they'll talk about, specifically people. They'll say, well, I can't draw people. And
I can't even draw a stick figure.
I know.
Like, yes, you can. Stop lying.
I know. And, it's funny because I really believe firmly that anyone can learn how to draw. Mostly.
I believe that too.
Mostly.
I'd all say, artists in some way.
Exactly. So anything else that you'd like to mention about risk-taking or trying new mediums?
Shut down that self-critic and go ahead and try it. Buy something new that you've never tried before. Maybe it's just batik. Try something loose if you're feeling really nervous about investing in something. You know what? Actually, you don't even have to buy anything. You can look around your house and find materials to make art out of. But maybe you start there if you're not already doing that. If you're already doing that, look at collage or photography. Just use your digital camera. I definitely think it's important to do a different creative journey, maybe every week if you're not already in that practice. Just try something new. That would be my leave behind.
Well, I think that's a great leave behind. And so, Lisa, I just really want to thank you for being my first episode of Artsy Women. Looking forward to doing more and creating.
I'm looking forward to hearing more. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. And thank you.
Thanks for listening to Episode 1 of Artsy Women, New Mediums Taking Creative Risks with guest Lisa McLymont. Check out our Facebook page, ArtsyWomen614, to see some of the art and mediums mentioned on this podcast and get links to the artists' websites and Facebook pages. Our next episode will feature renowned fiber and installation artist Sue Kavanaugh. Talk about authenticity and finding your true creative voice. Sue Kavanaugh is represented by Muse Gallery, a contemporary fine art gallery featuring internationally known mid-career artists, with a new location in Hilton Head, amusegallery.com. This has been Christine Guillot Ryan, mixed media and video collage artist. Artsy Women. Create, converse, connect.